I don't know if anyone else has this thing, but I hate tags in shirts. Does anyone ever have that? Where like the tag is like, it's meant to be laying flat, but somehow it gets like a little bit folded and it kind of like, bothers your neck. I don't know. It's one of these weird things that always bothers me. And the same thing with like closely cropped like t-shirts, I always feel like I want to stretch out the collar, and turtlenecks, gosh, forget about it. I don't know. I just have this thing about having scratchy things around my neck. And I've been thinking about this as the weather is getting colder, wanting to be like bundled up and wrapped up with something warm, but not having it be too tight or having it be too scratchy. Now, this was sort of running in the back of my mind when I was doing some work in preparation for a course that I'm leading on the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. And in this book, it talks so much about suffering and how like suffering is what we're really trying to escape, what we're trying to find sanctuary from, what we're trying to get away from in our yoga practice. And there's one particular line where it talks about how when you're being scorched by the fire of suffering, you can find refuge in your practice. And I'm thinking like, this is probably a kind of a privileged response here, but I can't really say that I've ever been scorched by the fires of suffering. And I brought this up in a yoga teachers group, and my teacher, Cindy Lee, said, I think you're thinking about suffering in a little bit of a different way than you need to. She made this great point that we suffer in all kinds of little ways, and wouldn't you know, one of the examples she gave was the tag in the shirt. And I was like, I'm just having that exact same experience. Sometimes I think it's hard to look at the sort of small annoyances of our regular life and think of them as something we need to find refuge from. But one of the main premises of restorative yoga is that we make ourselves as absolutely comfortable as possible. Because if we can start to remove some of the discomforts, whether it's that kind of mild annoyance of having like a tag scratching your neck, or something more serious like a continued ache in your back, or some other distress. Maybe it's not even physical. Maybe you've just been dealing with some heavy emotion. If we can make our bodies as comfortable as possible in these positions, we're really creating a kind of sanctuary for ourselves, really saying, I take this discomfort, this suffering, however big or small, seriously. That my work here tonight is to find a soft and sweet and welcoming place to, be protected from those sufferings. So I think this is the aim of our practice this evening. Ultimately, to be as comfortable as possible in our bodies, to find a place where we can really welcome ourselves into ourselves. The breath will help, our props will help, and some quiet is the plan tonight. Okay, let's do it, everybody. Reorganize your seat. If you're ready to lie down, you're welcome to lie down as we do a centering, or you can stay upright. If you need like a little more energy and upliftment, try placing your palms, hands up in your lap. If you feel like you're ready to be more settled, if you need to bring your energy down towards the earth, place your palms down just above your knees. Create an image for yourself of the most welcoming space you can imagine. Even though we can't have these things you're imagining in this moment, the kind of feeling that you have when you imagine that sanctuary, that place of refuge, that most welcoming place you could imagine, it's that feeling that we're trying to cultivate in this practice today. No matter how big or small our sufferings or discomforts are, this practice is a place for us to find comfort and ease, to welcome ourselves into ourselves. Take your palms together and lift them in front of your heart. Rest your thumbs at your chest and sit just a little bit taller, not without force or strain, but enough to feel that you're opening up to some possibility. This gesture of intention setting allows us to create a kind of organizing principle for our practice tonight. Comfort and sanctuary, perhaps as I've invited, or maybe something that feels more relevant to you. Whatever qualities or energy you're creating here, or desiring to create, set that as your intention now. When we sing together the sound Om at the beginning of our yoga practices, we take the energy of our individual intentions and put it into something expansive, a sound that's comprehensive and collective. The sound of Om is said to contain all of the vibrations of everything in the universe. Singing Om is also a really important way for us to honor the ritual and the traditions of yoga. I'd love for you to add your voice to mine to sing an Om tonight. Everyone, please exhale your breath all the way out. Inhale deeply. Release your hands into your lap. Keep your gaze soft as you blink open your eyes. All right, for our first posture, I want you to shift over so that you can sit on your left hip. So your legs are kind of side saddled here, right? They're not staggered. They're not stacked. They're kind of staggered. And then bring your bolster, or maybe it's your bed pillows or whatever props you're using tonight, and line up the bolster so that it's next to your left hip. And then as you're setting yourself up here, find the side seam of your shirt and organize the side seam of your shirt so it's right at the middle of your bolster or your blankets or whatever props you might be using. The bolster is probably a little bit farther behind you than you might have put it if you were just laying it down. Most of the time I feel like folks are intending to have the bolster in front of them, but the bolster is more behind you than it is in front of you. Then sit up a little bit taller, think crown of head towards the sky. Turn belly and chest. Let your right hip wrap around towards you so you're turning in the direction of the bolster. And then walk your hands away from you, lengthening your spine as you lower. Turn your left cheek onto the bolster. And then here you can decide what else you need. So for me, I almost always need a blanket in this posture for my head. So maybe you will find that that's true as well, or a small pillow to help prop your head up. And then notice what's happening with your right arm. If your right arm is not solidly planted on the floor, or if it's just barely reaching the floor, grab some props to put underneath your right arm. So one of the things you can do here is you can put your blocks or block so that it's supporting your forearms and your hand. You could also play around with adding one of those rolled up blankets under your arms as well. So play around and see if you can find the just right height for your arm. What you're trying to avoid here is a super big stretch around your outer right arm. It should feel like your arm is just landing really comfortably on the bolster. Whatever the left arm wants to do back behind you, you can let it. Some folks like just having it sort of laid along, sort of mirroring the right arm, but other folks appreciate having the back arm kind of tucked under, right? So in this position, if you were looking at me from lying down, it'd have this arm kind of tucked around behind your back. Take a second to find the just right position here. Especially attend to your head. Make sure that's comfortable. And then close your eyes. Take a few breaths here, really feeling and noticing how body is meeting you on the mat. Noticing if you need any adjustments or any movements to help your body feel more comfortable or more settled. Make sure you're feeling warm enough, especially if you're practicing in a cooler space in your house. We're really aiming to keep ourselves still in these poses, but you should never feel like you're stuck. If you come into a posture and you start to feel uncomfortable in your body, make whatever adjustment you need, even if you end up changing the posture entirely. Our number one aim today is to make the body comfortable. And take away any of the physical discomforts or distractions. The body is comfortable. That's a good start towards releasing whatever kinds of discomforts you might feel. And the props are our first way of making body comfortable. But the breath helps as well. Notice that you're breathing. Every time that you exhale, release some effort, some holding. Every out breath allows you to get softer and more settled. If you find those things that cause you worry or discomfort show up in the churnings of your mind, you can use the breath to help there too. Exhale, release into the comfort of the body. Exhale as a way not just to soothe your body, but to soothe your worried mind. The breath can act as an anchor for you as well, especially if you find that your mind keeps getting you churned up. Continue to pull attention back to the exhalation, the way that the exhale allows you to soften, to release your worried mind, your tired body. And now, bring your mind back into this experience. Just notice how your body feels in this pose. Deepen your breath. Then exhale completely. Moving slowly, place your hands so that the palms of your hands are in contact with the floor. Slide your hands back under your shoulders, and then use the strength of your arms to help push your body up into a seated position. You could go to cross-legged, or you could shift to sit on your heels again in a kneeling position. Close your eyes if they weren't closed already, and just notice the impact of that pose. Especially notice the difference between your right side and your left side. Inhale deeply. Exhale completely. Keeping your gaze soft. Blink, open your eyes. All right, shift over so that you can sit on your right hip. You can move your bolster, or you could just switch around to the other side, depending on how your setup is. Let your legs stagger again, not stacked, but next to one another. And take an extra moment to set up so that the side seam of your shirt is running down the center of your bolster or your pillows or whatever props you might be using. Sit up just a little bit taller, extend out crown of head away from your hips, and then turn belly and chest towards the bolster. Let your left hip wrap around with you. Fold over the bolster, rest your right cheek. You can add as many props as you need so that you can feel comfortable in this position. This side might be completely different from the first side. If you find that your left arm is not hitting the floor comfortably or easily, add your props, a blanket, or your blocks. Adjust the position of your right arm so it is comfortable as well. Make sure that your body's warm enough. You might find you need to place a blanket over your feet or across your legs or on any part of your body if you're starting to feel cool. Close your eyes and settle into the pose. Remember, you're not stuck, even though we're aiming for a more still place for our bodies. And take your time to get comfortable in the pose. As we create this comfortable sanctuary for our physical body, make use of the props, but also make use of the breath. With every exhalation, there's an opportunity to relax, to let go of some holding. Exhale and release into your props. If you start to find that the busyness of mind is creating the suffering for you, big or small, know that the breath is available, a kind of anchor for your attention. your attention back from wherever your mind might have been. Bring mind back to notice the experience of this pose. Take a deep breath in. Exhale completely. Then adjust the position of your hands. Slide your palms back until they're pressing into the floor, hands under shoulders. Use the support and the strength of your hands to push your body up into a seated position. You could come to cross-legged or kneeling or even legs out straight. And close your eyes, turn your gaze downward. Just notice the impact of that pose you just practiced. Especially notice the difference between the right side and left sides of your body. Everyone inhale deeply. Exhale completely. Keeping your gaze soft. Blink open your eyes. I'm going to practice everyone's favorite restorative yoga pose next. It's called Supta Baddha Konasana, the reclining bound ankle pose. If you have two blocks, you'll use both of those. Put one on the middle side and one on the low side. If you've only got one block, you can play around with whichever block you think might serve you best. If you want to be up a little higher, you would just use the tall block. If you like to be a little lower, the small block would work just fine. Then prop up your bolster so that your bolster feels like kind of a sliding board angle. The bottom edge of your bolster should hit on the floor, but also the top end of the bolster should be resting firmly on the block. Take that folded blanket that you've been using for your head or maybe your small pillow and put it up the top end of the sliding board bolster. And then bring your rolled up blankets, one to either side. If you were using them for the last pose, they might need a tidy like mine do. Once you have your props all organized and ready, scoot back so that you're sitting back against the bolster. You're not sitting on it, but take away all of the space so there's no gap between your back and the edge of the bolster. Put the soles of your feet flat onto the floor so that your knees are bent, and then pull the rolled up blankets in so that the rolled up blankets are touching your ankles all the way up to your outer hips, to your thighs. Once you have those blankets kind of snugged in really close, let the soles of your feet come together and drop your knees out to the sides. Your knees are propped up quite high here, so you're definitely not opening your knees out as far as they're able to go. Really tuck the blankets in so it feels like really cozy in your legs. You might need to hold on to the bolster as you lie back so it doesn't slide. Adjust your head, as we do. And rest your hands, either hands on belly or hands on inner thighs. If your blanket tail is long enough, you might even tuck it under a little bit so that you have enough of a support for under your arms that it doesn't feel like your arms are dangling or falling off the edge of the props. It's a nice place to put a blanket. You might find that having a blanket over your belly or fronts of thighs makes you feel a little more settled. Just as we've been doing in these poses, find a way to make your body as comfortable as possible. That should feel like the pose is welcoming you into it. A kind of cozy and settling place to land. Come back to the breath, especially your exhalations. Bring your attention back from wherever your mind might have been. Take a deep breath in. Exhale your breath all the way out. Just start to move and adjust and wiggle and bend in any way that feels good for you. Draw your knees in towards your chest, whether that's feet flat to the floor, or draw your knees all the way in, using your hands to help. Roll all the way over to your side. And then use the support of your hands and your arms. Push your body up into a seated position. Keep your eyes closed or turn your gaze downward. Take a moment to feel the impact of the pose that you've just practiced, the entire practice of resting that you've just participated in. Take a deep breath in. Exhale completely. And join your palms together in front of your heart. Exhale your breath all the way out. Inhale deeply. With a wish for peace in all of its forms, for all beings everywhere. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om. Peace, peace, peace.